Greetings, brothers and sisters. May God bless you. I'm Pastor Sergio Salinas, the evangelism coordinator for the Mexico field for evangelism again. We are here to look at chapter 6, the influence of the Apostle Pablo in the evangelism. For us as a church, many times it's to go every church to sing and to serve the Lord. However, in the day of the Apostle Paul, to be a believer was to become a messenger, a carrier of the message of liberty for the world. In spite of the opposition, in spite of the persecution that was happening, the church had adopted and taken on the Great Commission and completed it in such a fervent way. They worshiped, they sought God, and they preached, and each one of them was a message. Each one of them was a witness, a powerful witness of this testimony of Jesus Christ in their lives. Today, we understand that a church that is alive is a church that knows how to share its faith. And this was the church of the first century. Today, maybe we are focused more in ourselves and prosperity, in materialism. We're focused in our health and in our well-being, and some of these things are good, but it really wasn't that way for the early church of the first century. The Apostle Paul, or while he was still Saul of Tarsus, he fought with this church. He persecuted to whip believers, to put them in jail, when he himself had a personal encounter with Jesus Christ on the way to Damascus. And that's where Paul was born again with Jesus Christ. He came to know Jesus face to face, and he received a call behalf of God to preach this message, to preach the good news. It wasn't just something that Paul had heard, but it was something that he had experienced. Now, God was training him and helping him to be ready to go and to take this message in front of kings, in front of the Gentiles, in front of the people of Israel. And still, even Paul was able to take this message to other countries, a message that the church needs to take today, a powerful church, an active church. Paul was disciple within this church. There were people that served as his mentors to disciple him, that discipled Paul so that he would be a great blessing for the plantation of churches. Today, we need men and women. Today, we need a church like the church of the first century, that is not focused in its own needs, but is investing in the work, that is investing its time in the gifts and talents that God has given it. It doesn't matter what they suffer for Jesus Christ. It doesn't matter what's happening in their lives. It doesn't matter what's happening around them. That all that matters is the church has a relationship with Jesus Christ, and they follow this call to obey Christ in the Great Commission. Some statistics tell us that in our country here in Mexico, that 97% of the Christians never have won anyone to Jesus Christ. And so this means that Christians today are very different than the Christians of the first century. Only 3% of the Christians here in Mexico have won someone for Jesus Christ. We're here in the church. We have programs. But today, we need that our lives of holiness, that our fellowship with the Lord, that a life full of the Holy Spirit would carry us to be evangelists, evangelism with passion, and evangelism with passion. That's what our city needs. That's what your church needs. We have left this to leadership, to the pastors, that they would be the ones that would be in charge of preaching the word, and that these people would be in charge of witnessing about Jesus Christ. As if it were only for the pastors and leaders to evangelize. And that's where we failed as a church. But the Apostle Paul said every believer, every Christian is a powerful instrument in the hands of God to carry this message. The good news that Christ came to this world, that Jesus died on the cross to shed his blood so that we could have forgiveness of sins, that Jesus died and he was resurrected on the third day from among the dead. And this is a transforming message. This is a message of love. It's a message that changes lives, that changes entire cities, that can change entire countries. And that through one person who is willing to testify about Jesus Christ, today the church can be changed. That we can share this to others. Paul shared this with other people. He told it to Timothy. Preach in season and out of season. It doesn't matter what's happening. And then teach to other people what I have given to you, Timothy. This is the message that we have today. This is a message that the Apostle Paul received. And he made it clear that God had given him the same message, and that this message is urgent. That we have to invest our resources in the evangelistic work. We have to invest our resources. Another study says that 51% of the church never has heard what the Great Commission is. And that about 20% of the church has heard about the Great Commission, but they don't know what it refers to. And that about 17% of the church, only 17% of the church has heard about the Great Commission, that understands what the Great Commission is. But they haven't gone out to evangelize other people. Today, the church discipleship is not only just learning material from a book, but it's how I follow Jesus Christ. For Paul, it was his style of living. He said, I'm not ashamed of the gospel because it's the power of God. I'm not ashamed. To be a Christian is to confess Jesus Christ. And maybe in Paul's day, it could have taken him to jail, to be beaten. But we can see that he was able to win many people for Jesus Christ. When he prayed and was worshiping Jesus Christ, although he was in the jail, it didn't bother Paul where he was. He continued preaching the gospel. He was able to surrender his life. And he told the Philippians, have the same mind in you that Jesus Christ had. That although he was God, he did not seek to make himself equal with God, but he emptied himself out. Today, the church has to let go of many things that are stopping us from carrying out the evangelistic work. A life of holiness has to be reflected through the passion that we have for the lost. To be the church, we cannot be the church without having a passion for souls. There's no other business for us to be a part of. We have to build churches. We have to paint our churches. We have to have a structure for what we do. But the mission is to go and make disciples, Christ-like disciples in all the nations. This work will never end. It doesn't matter what's happening today. Our ministry, it doesn't matter what ministry we're serving in. We need to preach the word. We need to accompany our pastors and our leaders within the church. We have to leave the four walls of the church to do evangelism. It should be a style of life. It's not something we do occasionally, but it's something continually that we are doing. It should be fervent, that we worry about the needs or think of the needs of others. For the Apostle Paul, all the Christians were a testimony, and to have a powerful call to tell all the world, all the Christians have to obey, because if we don't obey this call, we're Christians of the mountain. We're Christians of the mountain only. We arrive to church on Sunday and we listen. But the influence of the Apostle Paul was about sharing with others what Jesus Christ does in us. To sharing with people how we love the work. I remember when I came to know Jesus Christ when I was 17 years old. I gave my life to Christ. And this time in the altar, I could sense the Lord. I could sense the forgiveness of sins that I had received. Everything made sense within the church the moment that I came to know Jesus Christ, because I had actually been in the church since I was 6 years old. But in this instant, when God touched my heart, in the same instant, I felt a strong call to leave the church running and to announce to the people that God was real, that He had pardoned me, and that He changed my life. And to say to those that were lost and to those that were needing Him, for my own family, don't lose the first love. Maybe time has passed since you've known Him. But you need to continue following Him. You need to seek Him. You have to understand. And that each one of us have to keep preaching Jesus Christ. This is a message that's so urgent. Because many people are going to an eternity without Jesus. You and me have the message that can change the story of people, of cities. We need to plant new churches. And we need to have a strategy of preaching the gospel, going from city to city, community to community, preaching the gospel of God. And Paul, with the new believers, he was forming churches. The church, there weren't church buildings. There weren't many possessions. The church didn't have land. The churches were in the houses, but they had the power of the Holy Spirit. The same Holy Spirit is with us today. The same Holy Spirit continues training us and giving us the strength to do what we need to today for ministry. Today, all of us, we have the same call to leave the four walls of the church, to not just be focused in programs, but to go out with the power of the Holy Spirit to share with others about Jesus Christ, to bring blessing to those who don't know Jesus. And God will add every day, como the early church, new people to us, to the church. This message is so urgent. And today we could see a great revival. Although we might be suffering for cause of the good news, it should not make us ashamed, because we have the power to testify to others. As Paul was always preparing whatever church he was going to, he was discipling, he was preparing new leaders, new pastors, and he was leaving a church with a structure to go and to present the gospel in other places and in other places. And always preparing people so that new souls could be gained for Jesus. It was really important to develop just a simple strategy. Go with your family, go with your friends, go to your neighbors. Take this message of hope. Train other people to have the same passion to carry this great gospel message to every place in your country, in your city, in your neighborhood. Carry this message of hope. It's an urgent message. The Lord told Paul in Damascus, get up. You're going to be a minister and a witness of everything that you have seen, all that you've seen, the liberty that you've witnessed. I'm sending you to preach out. I'm sending you to go and open the eyes of those so that they would convert and leave the darkness and go to the light, from the power of Satan to the power of God, so that they can receive forgiveness of sins and they can receive an inheritance among the saints. In Ephesians 5:20, Paul wrote, we are ambassadors for Jesus Christ, co-workers with God, sent with a purpose within the mission of God. The work is the Lord's. Paul said, I planted, Paul watered, but the growth belonged to the Lord. There's nothing else to say. We need to go. Pablo said, God, Lord, what do you want me to do? He would tell us that we need to leave our four walls. We need to train ourselves and to seek the lost. The Holy Spirit is with us. We are the church of the Lord in this time. May God bless you.